Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Kirguson. I'm a cloud solution architect with BrainScale. And in this webinar, it's the third part of a three-part series. We're going to be focusing on adopting Azure Sentinel. So let me start with a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm Jason Kirguson. I've been a technology consultant, web architect, and cloud solutions architect over many years. So I've worked in a large variety of industries, and I've been working with BrainScale for the past 2.5 years. BrainScale, I'll cover in just a bit what we do, but this session we're going to go over the business benefits of Sentinel, the cost of adopting it, customizing, adopting Sentinel in your organization, and then we'll leave some time for any kind of questions at the end. So let's first start with BrainScale. BrainScale was established in 2007 by two Microsoft engineers. We're headquartered in Princeton, New Jersey, but we have a global presence. As a matter of fact, I'm based in Texas, and we have offices overseas as well. We focus on security, governance, and we have regulated industry experience. We are an end-to-end Azure solutions consultancy. And as you can see, we have more than 13 years as a Microsoft partner, and we provide not only services, but also a variety of products, including Azure governance, etc. So let's talk a little bit about Azure Sentinel. Azure Sentinel is built from the ground up as a cloud-based SIEM. It also has SOAR capabilities. So it has the ability to collect information from divergent data sources, be able to allow analysts to detect using analytics tools, using Azure's log analytics, Azure Monitor, be able to perform hunts, and then can go through the process of once there have been issues that are detected, they can be turned into incidents, and then go through the process of remediation with those. And that's where the automation takes place. This offering has been on the market for a short while now, and the product is intended to go with the direction where SIEM-based solutions are moving more toward the cloud to allow for scale, performance, tying into machine learning, the ability to tie into a variety of platforms. So let's discuss the business benefits of Azure Sentinel. So here's a quote from Forrester. For security pros that have been around a while, don't let your cynicism cloud, pun intended, the potential advantages your organization could experience by making use of these tools. Take off the tinfoil hat and realize that Microsoft is a security company now. And this is a paradigm shift for many people thinking about Microsoft with its products and services, that it now is a dominant security company. So let's look at the benefits for Azure Sentinel. First, from where you are now, you can work smarter. It has built-in cloud AI with Microsoft machine learning. It can automate, monitor, and respond to incidents. So it reduces your need to manually do many of these processes. It reduces alert fatigue. With the sheer volume of alerts that come in, Sentinel allows for an intelligent way to reduce those into actionable items. It increases the threat response productivity, so your team members can be more effective, faster. And with that ongoing learning with machine language, it allows for proactivity. It does have machine learning automatically turned on by default throughout Azure Sentinel, so you just get that benefit without having to do anything. And then lastly, Sentinel is continuously improved by Microsoft security experts. So if you would like to adopt best practices, they're built into the system, and those will continually evolve, and you get the benefit of that. Sentinel allows you to be faster. So with its centralized control plane, if you have various threat protection systems in your environment already, it can consolidate those so you have one place to do analytics and management. It allows the analysts to be able to have quick access to dashboards, be able to create cases, and go through hunting, and perform advanced analysis using notebooks. And then lastly, with the data correlation, it avoids the need to manually correlate alerts across these different systems. Since you have one central place, you can navigate and tie those alerts together and be able to track accordingly. And lastly, Sentinel is cheaper. It gives you lower security costs almost immediately. The idea here is that it's very scalable, it's fully managed, so you don't have the infrastructure overhead. And as a result, since its cost is associated with what you use, you have a lower usage whenever it's not needed. And then lastly, since Microsoft maintains Sentinel's infrastructure, it cuts down on IT time in managing that. If you look at the different roles that would be involved in the SIM process, there's the IT, the technical side, and then the business decision makers. With IT, they can focus on threat response. So that's directly available to them for security analysts, engineers, researchers, etc., with versatile and easy to use tools. It allows them to be faster, and with the automation that comes through the process and using machine learning, it does enhance automation significantly. So it reduces the workload. And then lastly, IT team members can bring their own tools. So if they already have playbooks or workbooks or queries that they'd like to use, they can be brought into, be used in Sentinel's process. For decision makers, they separately can come in to the environment and access relevant data across the business with the visualized interactive dashboards that gives them direct access to reports. So there's no need to source that from different departments. They can access it directly. And as a result, they can get direct insights directly from these dashboards without having to have it interpreted. Since this is backed by Microsoft, there are a few considerations here. First, Microsoft owns one of the largest cloud platforms in the world, Azure. They sell one of the most used cloud endpoints, Windows, and they're poised to become the biggest security player in the world. Think about that. They put in over $1 billion annually into cybersecurity. They already have 3,500 plus security experts, and the machine learning is growing and acquiring greater intelligence by traversing trillions of diverse signals already. So this comes out of the box available to you, and you're leveraging Sentinel to be able to package many of those best practices. So let's look at the cost of adoption. There are various components when it comes to Azure Sentinel. It's actually fairly straightforward, but it needs to be broken down this way. There's a cost associated with Sentinel, but there is a free trial available for that, so a 30-day trial. But since Sentinel works with different services, you need to consider the cost of those services. A major component of that is log analytics as a part of Azure Monitor. So you need to look at those costs separately. Additionally, if you use playbooks, those are Azure Logic apps. And then lastly, if you do the bring your own machine learning, then those various services also need to be considered as well. But with pricing, there's two major forms of pricing. One is the pay as you go, and this one is fairly straightforward, $2 per gig per day, specifically for Azure Sentinel. So that's for the ingestion and the analytics that Sentinel does. But you have to consider the cost of log analytics with it. Fortunately, Azure simplifies that. If you go to the Azure pricing tool, it actually includes the log analytics in the estimate that you will see whenever you put in your numbers. So in this particular scenario, this is for a fairly small size business that may ingest 10 gigs of data per day. So they go ahead and put in the price for log analytics and Sentinel. So the $2 is included, and log analytics storage and ingestion are included there. And you can see that for 10 gigs a day, storing 3 months worth of data, it runs at $1,200. So it's a fairly straightforward approach, but consider this as well. You also have the ability to reserve a certain amount of capacity with log analytics. This can save you significantly if it fits your certain pattern. And of course, you're welcome to use a calculator to determine whether reserved capacity is the right fit for you. You can see here, once you get over a certain threshold, that you can find significant cost savings there. Some other ideas for reducing costs. Keep in mind, Sentinel allows for free the ingress of Azure Activity Logs, Office 365, Activity Logs, and ATP alerts. So those are always free. You should go ahead and take advantage of those if you're going to be trying Sentinel. Next is, for existing log analytics customers, consider node licensing. It's another way of reducing costs and reserving the nodes that you're going to need. Enterprise customers can take advantage of unused Azure consumption grants. And then lastly, if you're currently using Azure AD Premium P1 or P2, or if you're a Microsoft Defender ATP customer, you can actually use Sentinel for these services, and it may very well be free. So contact your Microsoft rep for that. For total cost of ownership, on acquisition, the adoption is fairly low cost. If you use the cost per consumption, if you start by using the free services that are available, you can try it out today for very low cost. You can also get a sense for, once you know your log volume, you can easily start to look at the incremental cost that may be associated, and maybe go to reserving some resources for log analytics to be able to keep the costs low. For implementation, it's low to moderate in my assessment as far as migrating over. There's training to consider, and then migrating current work or processes if those are relevant. But with the built-in templates and automations, it greatly reduces these costs. Regarding support, when you purchase Sentinel, it has a baseline Microsoft support included. You can change that to enterprise support, or if you currently have enterprise support, this will simply be folded into that. Since the environment is managed, there's no need to worry about infrastructure migrating to production environments and whatnot. All that's automatically available to you. So as far as overall value, you get significant value right out of the box. It does allow you to have customizations, allow you to have advanced hunts and automations, and the data visibility, and taking advantage of machine learning to tie data from divergent sources together.
Hey Jason, there's a question about where do I reserve capacity? So I don't know if you could spend a minute just talking about, I don't know if that's RI specifically or.
Oh, that one probably the best approach would be to contact your Microsoft representative, because the prices that you will see on Azure may not be the same as what you would receive. But basically, you can go and you can for log analytics specifically, you can look at the options on your current log analytics account and see if you can reserve certain instances. But really, that should be a consideration if you're looking at where to change it. You should look at also the volume that you'll be needing. So those will come into play before you can actually decide on which ones. But you can actually go to the pricing calculator to get a sense for what that cost would be. I have the latest here, but you still would want to confirm that. Okay, so what I'd like to do, since there's a lot in Azure Sentinel that we could walk through, I don't want this to be a demo of Sentinel itself, but I'd like to show you areas where you can be involved in customizing. So I'm going to start with taking a look at what Azure Sentinel has available on GitHub. So in the Azure Sentinel repo on GitHub, you can see quite a bit here as far as different types of templates you can use. So bringing your own machine learning, you can actually import this directly into Sentinel. You have Azure Functions, a variety of detections. Now dashboards are being replaced by workbooks, so you'll actually see more of these actually already built into Azure Sentinel, which I can show you briefly. There are also things such as notebooks that Jupyter notebooks are available for you to be able to work in, and lastly you see here workbooks. What's significant here is that it'll give you examples, but it'll also sometimes give you the ability directly to plug them in. So let me see if I can show you a playbook here. So if you wanted to block an AAD user, you can actually just deploy it right here, as as typical with a GitHub deployment. So let's take a look at how that works in Azure Sentinel. So right now we have an existing Azure Sentinel incident, or I'm sorry, Azure Sentinel service, and we have this tied to a variety of data sources, including Azure AD, as well as some virtual machines. And you notice here on the overview that you have the ability to drill down based upon date. There are already some instances that are made available to you, so you can start working then and there. You can see here, for example, that there's already a malicious event that has started. So you can just start at this point and drill down on this. So right now we're looking at a log query that was created for you based upon that incident. So you can actually save this for use later. For this particular for this particular alert, you can actually flag this and add it as a bookmark so that you can investigate it further. So this is just the moment you start, you can start to get to work, and then those will be flagged as incidents that would then be able to be worked on. So as far as areas to customize, within Sentinel, you can bring in your own logs. So you can save them as your own, or you can use the built-in ones here. So you can see there's some, for example, for data usage, you can just simply click run. It'll import the query and allow you to view it in real time. All right. Okay, so next would be regarding workbooks. If you have workbooks that you've already created, you'll be able to see them in the My Workbook section. Templates are available to then select a template and then save the template to your local collection. Once you have created a workbook, you're able to customize it. So even though this may be a generic workbook at first, you can make it suitable to your needs. For notebooks, notebooks are very involved. These are the more advanced querying tools using existing Jupyter notebooks. This one, there's a lot to this, but basically, if you want to launch Notebook, you can actually see the notebook. It opens up a Jupyter interface. In this case, it will take quite a while to upload and get it set up. You can see here that we already have a couple of notebooks that we were experimenting with. So once those are set up, your analysts can go through and continue to use that for a variety of their investigations. I did mention to you the data connectors. There's a variety of data connectors that are available to you. More and more are added on a regular basis. Microsoft has on the roadmap, I think 81 additional connectors they're looking to add with the next minor release. And then I mentioned to you that workbooks are replacing the dashboard. So workbooks are far more advanced way to view reports in a visual way. And then lastly, playbooks. Playbooks are your logic apps. So if you have an existing logic app, you can actually export that and import that into this as a playbook, or you can just simply create your own, at which point it creates a logic app directly for you that you can then put in your information. All this is available as a template, so you can deploy these in an automation process in your DevOps process. So as I mentioned, there's a lot to this, but with that being said, day one, you can start going through the dashboard, looking at the recommendations and getting guidance on that. It becomes more intelligent the more data sources you bring in. So keep that in mind as you're working with it. Okay, let's discuss adoption. So to adopt Sentinel in your business, you need to obviously set up Sentinel and enable some data sources. Next, you would go through the learning process. This can be a learning by doing, as I was showing you just moments ago. Setting up the default, you can go and learn and see what existing queries, existing playbooks might be useful. At which point, you'll learn by existing templates and best practices. Then you can also go through training. Next, you want to start migrating your work. So if you have existing SIM processes, you can go ahead and bring those in. And lastly, go ahead and start using. At that point, you'll start to see what processes that you can automate to reduce overhead and allow for faster response times to incidents. Since this is a cloud-based SIM, it's set up automatically to be able to grow with you. So since it's based upon consumption, you don't have to worry about the overhead of Sentinel itself. It auto scales to meet your needs. If you choose the right fit for the amount of data ingestion per day, you should have predictable pricing. And then lastly, as you bring in your data sources, you can bring in more data as is needed. So you can grow your footprint as is appropriate for your business. And keep in mind that Azure Sentinel has the ability to peek into data sources. So if it does not have to duplicate data in order to view the data and then provide insights. So that cuts down on costs. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move into the Q&A part of this, but I did want to highlight, so this is the last part of a 3-part series. We've covered the 101 of Azure Sentinel, and we've discussed Sentinel in the marketplace, comparing it to relevant competitors. And then this one, of course, was the adoption process with Sentinel. So we do, excuse me. Pardon me. So I would like to open it up to any questions you guys may have. Forgive the coughing there, just had one moment there. But we do have additional workshops coming up for, and we'll be emailing out information on that, as well as if you have, if we have your email address, we will be sending out gift cards if you don't mind filling out a brief survey. So let me go ahead and open it up to any questions.
Just to kind of cover some of the questions that we have received, we went over Security Center versus Splunk. We went over Sentinel compared to Splunk and Security Center and Sentinel in the marketplace. That was our second session of this series. I'll make sure you receive that recording later on today. As Jason said, I'll wrap it up in a post with all three recordings, as well as a survey to fill out just with your feedback on the series in general, which would be great if you could fill that out for us.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
I did see a question earlier on about comparing Sentinel to competing solutions in other public clouds. Not, we went over Splunk a little bit. I know Security Center is kind of Azure focused. So is there any other, Jason, competing solution in another public cloud that this would, compete with?
It's an interesting question because it does point out the direction that SIMs are going. The ones that are applications that run on-prem, those are a dying breed. Everything is moving to the cloud. So when you're looking for a new SIM solution, you're going to be likely going with a cloud-based solution. As a matter of fact, the previous session I spoke about how Splunk has Splunk Enterprise and Splunk Cloud. So with that, everyone is evolving. That being said, that does even the playing field in the sense of you're going to be using SIM as a service. So that means that then Azure's solution, Sentinel, will be competing with not only things like Splunk's cloud, but also some third-party startups. The key here is, if you're looking at comparing apples to apples, is first make sure that their footprint, that it's entirely a software as a service. Additionally, what can they consume? If you compare what's being consumed with the technologies that you're using, you'll find that probably Sentinel has a great advantage. What I mean by that is, if you're using Azure, if you're using Windows on-prem, if you're already using Azure Security Center, these are all natively integrated with Sentinel. Also, as I've shown you, much of that is considered free for ingress data. So to be able to compete, you have to be able to look at what they can actually touch and what they can actually be efficient at. And right now, Microsoft has a significant advantage there because they own Azure, because they own Windows, because they have such a strong security footprint. It makes them a formidable competitor.
We have a question here regarding pricing. He says that he checks and it looks like it's 10,000 per gigabyte per day. How much gigabyte of logs can we expect on a normal day?
So that will be entirely dependent upon your environment. Obviously the volume of activity, the types of systems that you're bringing in. And it's possible that some of that may be on the list of the free services that should be included in the cost. But if you're talking about that volume out of the gate, you're definitely going to want to look at reserving your instances with log analytics to keep the price point appropriate. There's also consideration of footprint as far as what you would like to bring in. There are some things that may not be relevant for security analysis, but that would really depend upon your environment, what your needs are. So for us, we like to bring as much as possible, but if the cost becomes a factor, then you want to target the ones that are going to be the most needed.
It does mention here that that pricing is in rupees that he mentioned, but yes.
Yes. And keep in mind that that pricing is largely log analytics. Sentinel is only $2 per gig per day. So regardless of what solution you're looking at, you're going to have that amount of ingress going on. There's a good chance that Azure is going to have a less of a footprint because of those previously mentioned events and activities that are not going to be charged.
Give it a few more moments, see if there are any other questions that pop up.
So I touched on this a bit, but there are upcoming sessions regarding the cloud adoption framework. We have workshops for, and then the Azure economic assessment as well.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, guys. Good job.
Thank you, Jason. And I just want to reiterate again that I'll be sending out an email to all registrants with the previous webinars as well as this one, and a short survey to fill out if you could, please. And we'll be tying an incentive to that for people who do fill it out, so you'll be hearing from us once you do. Thanks everybody for joining. This was an awesome webinar series. Thank you, Jason, for pulling it all together. And yeah, we'll keep in touch for the next webinar series.
Okay, take care.